And go ahead.
Welcome back, everybody. It is the PDPreps Podcast coming to you here about 11 a.m. Tuesday, September 16th. Bringing you another good pod full of, touching on some of our big takeaway storylines here from week 3 of the high school football season up here in the North Bay, talking about our North Bay poll, which I think should be out by now. Diving into a couple more things to just to kind of rehash from week 3. I think I had wrote about this a little bit last week. Just not the biggest of matchups this week. There were no kind of marquee crazy state matchups, but still some definitely interesting matchups kind of just all around the area. Some games and results that definitely kind of showed us a little more about kind of the hierarchy of teams, and showed us some other things about some teams that maybe surprised us a little bit. So definitely still a lot to talk about this week, and I'd say the week 4 slate is shaping up to be even better coming up this week. So Keenan, any kind of initial thoughts from week 3? Kind of chalky across the board. All the top teams won. I just looking at the scores, just not a whole lot I'd say to kind of write home about, but definitely some stuff we'll get into here soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Still some great games regardless. Some close ones. Obviously we'll talk about, you were at Petaluma Manly. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but that was a good one. Rich Katati did, and another good one. I was at that one. Still some good games regardless of what the initial schedule might have had some people thinking initially, but other than that, I think it was another solid week of football, and looking forward to another one up here this week.
Yeah, definitely. Some good ones on tap this week. I'll be heading out to our game of the week, which is going to be Windsor hosting Dublin. Kind of one of Windsor's first big tests this year. They've kind of rolled through their non-league schedule so far, off to a 3-0 start, and Dublin's a pretty decent team this year actually too. So that should be definitely kind of a good one to kind of see where Windsor measures up. Carl Newman obviously handled business 49 over Armia at Fairfield. St. Vincent rolled over Lowell. Anyway, we'll get into all those here shortly, but before we do that, let's do a quick little run through of what our North Bay poll looks like this week. Last week we had a tie at number 1. A tie has been broken this week. Last week it was Cardinal Newman and San Marin sharing the top spot with 74 points. Well, Newman has now wrestled back that top spot with 75 points. Got 4 first place votes this week. San Marin coming in at number 2 with 72 points. Got 3 first place votes last week. The last first place vote went to Marin Catholic. Wildcats are 0-3 this week, or are 0-3 at this point, but they've played 2 teams that are ranked in the top 40 in the state. We actually had a very competitive game, lost to Manteca, same team that kind of, that beat Newman pretty handily in that opening week game. Marin Catholic was in this game till the very end, lost 15-14. So definitely kind of shows what, that Marin Catholic, despite being 0-3, probably a much better team than their record indicates. So that's our top 3. Again, Marin Catholic coming in with 60 points, 1 first place vote. San Marin at 72 points at number 2 with 3 first place votes. Outside of that, everything is pretty much the same as last week. St. Vincent coming in here at number 4 with 55 points. They rolled over Lowell out of San Francisco 61-0 last week. Good game coming up this weekend. Heading up all the way up to Humboldt County to play a defending state champion in Arcata. That is a late 7 p.m. Saturday kickoff time. So this is going to be a long weekend for the Mustangs heading up there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, long weekend for the Mustangs heading up there. Windsor coming in here at number 5. 51 points for the Jaguars. They took care of Independence down in San Jose. I think it was 44-0. Seen 2 different scores for that one. Like we said, Dublin coming into town this weekend, or this Friday. Good game there. Dublin 2-1 has some pretty notable results on their schedule too, so that should be a good one. Rancho Cotati game that you were at came away with a pretty solid 17-9 win over Bishop O'Dowd. And another defensive showcase for the Cougars to get out to a 3-0 start. Their turnaround season's going great so far. They're actually on bye this week. Yep. And then they're going to be hosting Montgomery, winless Montgomery, on the 26th. Vintage 3-0 on the year, coming in at number 7, with 33 points. They took care of Wood 36-15, hosting Bethel out of Vallejo, another one of those former league opponents they used to have when they were playing in the Monticello Empire League. That's coming up on Friday. American Canyon coming in here at number 8. Solid win over Benicia. I think, American Canyon was favored by a lot in that game. And, I wrote about this last week too. I think Benicia was a better team than the record might indicate. And yeah, they definitely gave the Wolves a battle. But still, American Canyon 2-1 on the year. Good bounce back win after the St. Vincent loss. They're now 2-1 on the year. Another good game coming up this week for the Wolves, hosting Hayward on Friday night. Ukiah coming in here at number 9 with 12 points. Kind of a funky game. They beat Fortuna 26-12, but this is a game I think that a lot of people thought that Ukiah would, myself included, that the people, Ukiah would win by a lot more. Fortuna, I think, also only Fortuna lost to, I think, St. Helena. I think it was like 28-12. So Ukiah actually had a smaller margin of victory than little tiny Division 7 St. Helena did. So maybe not the best showing for Ukiah, but again, win's a win. They actually had to rally, I think, at halftime. I think it was a 6-6 or 12-6 game or something. They scored 3 touchdowns in the third quarter to kind of pull away and win that one. So kind of a funky game for Ukiah, but again, win's a win, coming in at number 9. Tough game coming up this week. They're hosting Chico, one of the top teams from the northern section. They're coming in at 3-0 again. Saturday, 7 p.m. kickoff there for Ukiah. So late start up there at Mendocino. And then rounding out our top 10 is Casa Grande. Winless, 0-3, lost to Las Lomas 35-22 last week. They're playing at number 2 San Marin this week. Really tough non-league schedule for the Gauchos, and it gets tougher this week. But I think it's definitely a bit of a rebuilding year for Casa, but I also feel like it's the teams that they've played so far. I mean, they played Vintage, they played Vacaville, and they played Las Lomas. Now they're playing San Marin. Really tough non-league schedule so far for the Gauchos. So I think this is also a team where they're 0-3, might be 0-4 after this week, but I don't think that tells the whole story for their season. So, and then rounding out our receiving votes team, despite losing to Hanley last week, Petaluma retaining 2 points here. St. Helena with 1 point, Tam with 1 point, and Annalee also with 1 point. So some interesting teams receiving votes there to kind of round out our teams. But Keenan, any again, no real huge movement this week in the poll, but anything kind of stand out? Any notes you have from our North Bay poll this week?
No, just the top 3 continue to keep flip-flopping around. They're still like set in stone with those top 3. Definitely those 3 always give us something to think about. Without a doubt, just the results based in week in, week out. Like, for example, we had Marin Catholic, despite being 0-3, right? They lost to Manteca by 1 point, who blew out Cardinal Newman 47, right? So you take that into account, and that may deserve some consideration. But then you made a good point off camera. 0-3 and 0 is 0-3 regardless. And it's kind of hard to look past that. But does San Marin have a tougher strength of schedule than Marin Catholic or Cardinal Newman? No, probably not. But that SI win to open it up really kind of just opened our eyes to how good the San Marin team could really be. But other than that, not too surprising. It's just kind of hard. Everyone keeps winning, and it's and some of the teams that maybe a little underseeded in my eyes, maybe like a Vintage or something, just can't bump up because no one, it's you can't punish a team for winning. So winning. So everything else kind of shook out how I expected it to be.
Yeah, you mentioned the St. Ignatius win that San Marin had to open the year. SI also had a really, I think that win probably also looks better for San Marin now too. coming off of what happens last week. So St. Ignatius was up big on Acalanes, and Acalanes is like a top 5 program in the NCS. And then Acalanes had a big comeback to steal a win there, but still, I mean, St. Ignatius was in that game till the very end and had a pretty sizable lead, over one of the top teams in the NCS. And again, this is a team that San Marin had beat to start the year. So I think again, I think that win definitely kind of helps San Marin. But to your point though, San Marin's strength of schedule just between those top 3, not even close to kind of being as strong as Marin Catholic's or Newman's. I mean, Marin Catholic, and we'll dive in more to this here in a second, but Marin Catholic, after 3 weeks, has the second hardest strength of schedule in the entire NCS, only behind De La Salle. So again, 0-3 is 0-3, but they're playing a gauntlet. And again, they're also this week I think they should get a win. They're playing TAM, but they're also they're going to round out non-league with playing Pittsburgh, who's a top 25 team in the state and number 2 in the NCS. So I mean, we've talked about their schedule, their non-league schedule a little bit this year, but they might come into league at 1-4, but that, again, they're going to be one of the best teams, I think, in the area. So
yeah, totally.
Well, let's just actually, let's just jump right into it. That's kind of where we're going to start out our discussion this week. It's just kind of, 3 weeks in, taking stock of where, our 6 teams in the Redwood Empire Conference Adobe division stand right now. I mean, all 6 teams, again, 5 of them have winning records. The only team that doesn't is Marin Catholic. At this point, 3 weeks in, the teams are 14-4 combined. And again, the 2 teams that make up those 4 losses might very well be the 2 best teams in the entire the entire league. I know. So, but all 6 teams right now are ranked in the top 20 in the North Coast section. Vintage being the lowest ranked at number 20. At number 20, Cardinal Newman being the highest ranked at number 5, Marin Catholic number 7, San Marin number 8, Windsor coming in at number 14, and then Rancho Cotati coming in at number 17. So as it stands right now, there are 3 teams that would make the NCS Open Division playoff, just kind of same 3 teams as last week. Again, this is week 3. We still have 7 weeks to go, or 8 weeks to go. And again, Marin Catholic at this point is ED playoff eligible because they don't have a win yet. So that will definitely change, I think, as things go on. But I mean, again, the smallest margin of victory, I'd say, out of the teams that have started 3-0 is 11.7, and that's Rancho Cotati. So again, all these teams are handling their opposition pretty well. Kind of outside of the Marin Catholic and the Cardinal Newman group, San Marin so far has played the toughest schedule, just kind of out of that group, or out of the Windsor Rancho Cotati Vintage San Marin group. And then again, then you really step up a level with Cardinal Newman and Marin Catholic. So I mean, again, Newman's bounced back super well this, the last 2 weeks, obviously, after that Manteca loss, they had the huge Grant win. This week, they just absolutely, demolish Armio Fairfield. Not a huge shocker. Huge game for Malachi Path. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name. I'm going to have to work on that one as we go on because I think he's going to be a big factor this year for them. But Malachi Path is how we're going to keep it. But 5 touchdowns for him. I think he had over 200 rushing yards in that game. Running clock in the 4th quarter. Yeah, this is the Newman team that I think, again, after the Grant win, I think this was the team that we kind of, thought that they would be this year, and they're kind of, developing into that form. And so again, might be an interesting litmus test game. I don't think Newman should have any problems with them, but playing at Bishop O'Dowd this week, same team that Rancho Cotati, took care of last week. So, I mean, a little more just kind of on, I'd say the most interesting, team to start out, this year has been Marin Catholic. Again, we've talked about them a little bit, but 0-3 at this point. Their losses right now are to Inderkum, who's a pretty solid team from the Sac Joaquin section. They lost that game by 1 point, failed 2-point conversion at the end, didn't get it. Then they lost to St. Mary Stockton, top 30 team in the state, 28-7. Weren't as competitive in that one, but I think it was still like a 1 or 2 touchdown game, like heading into the 4th. And then Manteca, I think they had a drive going all the way down, in the last seconds, and then Manteca got a sack. I think I saw Manteca got 10 sacks in that game. So I know Marin Catholic's, offensive line was a bit of a question mark last year. Might still be that case this year. But again, Manteca is a really good team, as we saw in that first week. So, But again, this week I think Marin Catholic should be able to crack it in, into the win column. Playing TAM, a team that just lost to San Rafael last week. First time that they lost San Rafael in 15 years. Kind of a crazy. I mean, great for San Rafael, but yeah, just wow, just kind of a stunning result down in Marin. Um, but yeah, I think that Marin Catholic should be able to get into the win column this week, and then again, that's heading into a brutal, probably one of their hardest game, probably the hardest game of the schedule they have against Pittsburgh, coming up to close out non-league season.
Out of
So
all the games we've already said, the hardest one is still yet to
I
come.
know it's crazy.
It's
It's
crazy.
crazy. So, but again, I mean, you look at some of these losses. I mean, again, 1 point loss to Andercombe, 1 point loss to Manteca.
Yep.
They're on 3, but I think this is, once they enter league, let's just say they're 1-4 entering league. This might be the best 1-4 team in the entire Bay Area. So,
Seriously.
um,
Seriously.
kind of crazy. So, I mean, again, the Adobe is going to be fascinating this year. Marin Catholic and Newman also both have transfers that are going to become eligible towards the second half of the season. So both of them are going to just be even better towards the tail end and once league starts. So,
Yeah.
I'd say it's still there. Those are still the two top teams. I'd say that everyone else is chasing, but you look across across the rest of the league, like Vintage is better, Rancho's better. Windsor, can obviously, without, even without, a lot of their guys graduated and stuff, they're still a frisky team. I think that they could still give some teams some problems. So yeah, I mean, again, it still does look like it's Newman and Marin Catholic at the top, but I do feel like there's even less drop off, I think, this year than there have been or than there was last year. Last year was a bloodbath, and this year I think it could be even harder. So yeah, and then again, I mean, just looking at kind of where teams stack up as far as rankings and stuff go, and again, once league play starts, the strength of schedule is just going to get even, it's going to just improve for a lot of these teams. So I think there's a very good chance that we're looking at 3 teams from the Adobe making the Open Division again. And again, this is week 3, so still looking, super far ahead, but. Yeah, San Marin Catholic, Newman are definitely all positioned at this point of the year to make that top division again. So it'll be interesting, but we have about 2 or 3 more weeks until league starts, and then we're off to the races. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And keep in mind, for those listening, last year, majority of the reason why the Adobe was able to get three teams in was because of the whole El Cerrito scandal, right? And they're going to be ineligible for the playoffs this year yet again. Not sure if they would, if they would have made the Open Division regardless, because I think they just lost. But
yeah,
but
they lost to Vacaville this week, so
yeah,
they're out. They're all the way down to 13 in the NCS, and again, they weren't
yeah.
playoff
So
eligible this
yeah.
year, but yeah, they're just out of the consideration entirely now.
Yeah,
So
they're out of consideration now. But yeah. Anyways, I mean, it's gonna like you said, it's gonna be fascinating. I know we kind of touched on the Valley race last week, and how close that might be, and we kind of hinted at the Adobe this week, last week as well. But now that we're talking about it, it's just absolutely ridiculous, and it's funny because you mentioned how, like, the margin of victory last year for some of these games was pretty astronomical, and there was still a lot of close games, like Windsor Newman went to overtime, right?
yeah,
Freaking, it was Rancho and like Vintage or someone was like 14-7, right? And Rancho had San Marino on the ropes in the final game of the season to be playoff eligible, just needed a field goal, missed it, so
there
that
was
game
that.
was
There was
over.
also Vintage beating San Marin. Yeah, I mean, you also
Yeah.
mentioned the rain game too. That was the win game, the game that went the messy game that Windsor pulled out over Rancho. Yeah, and I mean, also like the Newman Marin Catholic, the first game too. That was like I think a 10-3 game or something like that too. So all these games were close last year, and they're, I mean, again, it does look like early on it's going to be Newman and Marin Catholic again, but I think all the teams below are are as much. I don't want to say in the conversation, but like, they're all going to be no game's easy. I feel like this year in the Adobe.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And before we transition over to some of the other stuff, I did want to talk about Rancho a little bit because that was their biggest test that they've passed so far. I mean 11.7 being the lowest margin of error across the Adobe teams is obviously still, it's still a lot of points, but um I do want to say this, keep in mind that like O'Dowd was without their starting tailback, without their starting fullback, a linebacker who's an absolute game wrecker for them. Um, their quarterback didn't play like from the midway through the third quarter on. It must have been injured on like a hit or something like that, Matteo Tarantino. But regardless, look, Rancho is slowly starting to put it together. And
Mm.
the only thing that's really hurting Rancho right now is themselves. There've been a lot of just stupid penalties, and Gary Cotaling, Rancho's head coach, said it himself. It's just we got to clean this stuff up, and just the personal fouls, stuff like that, out of late hit out of bounds, stuff like that. Like I remember there was a punt return by Luca Mori, ran it all the way back, gave him great field position. Uh, O'Dowd got called for a late hit out of bounds. That was immediately flagged, but then one of Rancho's players came back and shoved the O'Dowd player, so then it was offsetting penalties. So
Mm.
that instead of like another 15 yards, they had to settle for what they got. But Rancho's defense, I mean, keep in mind John McClellan, their star linebacker, running back, Colorado State commit. He wasn't playing due to an ankle injury. Didn't need him, I guess. I mean, he's obviously a game changer when he's on the field, but that defense was just absolutely lights out. I think over the past 2 games, just via the scorebook, they've only allowed, 16 points after allowing 26 in the UKI opener. But if you look back, technically, the 7 points that Redwood scored was on a special teams play, was on a punt. So if you think about it, the defense basically pitched a shutout in that one.
Uh,
So the defense is legit. The defense is for real. I don't know how many times I got to keep saying it. I mean, the defense is going to keep them in games, especially in the Adobe League. Their offense is really starting to put it together a little bit. I think, Wyatt Gregori has been an absolute, like, new and improved version of himself since last year. We know how he did last year. He's hitting the right targets. He's making smart decisions. He's using his legs. He's really become very effective for Rancho's offense. And that's certainly been helping him put up points. And we talk about all three phases. Rancho won that game, via special teams, right? They had 2 blocked kicks by Gage Cummings, perfectly timed. One of them was a field goal, one of them was an extra point. And then obviously Liam Perkett iced it with a field goal to basically put O'Dowd out of range with just under a minute left. So Rancho's slowly putting it together, man. And this Adobe is no joke, like we just talked about. And if we're gonna talk about dark horses in that league, last year we wouldn't have put Rancho in that, but this year, they're 3-0 heading into their bye week this week, sitting pretty. If they can clean up the penalties, I think they'll be just fine. They have Montgomery coming out of the bye week at home before they head to a mouthwatering matchup at St. Vincent the week after that, before they start league play. So, if they keep on this upward trajectory, Gus, I think they'll be just fine. And I think they could actually make a push, in the Adobe, to really do some damage.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. I mean, again, much improved this year, so definitely excited to kind of see how the next couple weeks shake out for the Cougars. But yeah, they're definitely a much improved team. I feel like off last year. All right, moving on to to a player who's actually made history last week and is approaching some even bigger history here the next couple weeks or even towards the end of the season is Mason Catarelli, the senior running back for St. Vincent. Keenan, you wrote a nice feature about him and his backfield mate, quarterback Gabe Casanovas, in the preseason. But one of the big storylines for Catarelli season this year, obviously, after helping lead St. Vincent to back-to-back state titles, is kind of his individual pursuit of some local and also some section history here. He started out the year, he had a great freshman year over at Cloverdale. Came over, transferred in for his sophomore year, had to sit half the year, but then ended up playing, I think, the back half. What was that? The last 10 games, I think, of that season, because they went on to win a state championship. And then he, played all of his junior season, and now he's in a senior season. But he entered this year with 4,252 rushing yards, just less than 1,500 away from the all-time Redwood Empire rushing mark set by Kai Hall, also St. Vincent. I think that was back in 2022. And Catarelli also started the year with 72 total touchdowns, which he actually broke Kai Hall's Redwood Empire touchdown record last week. He now has 10 touchdowns on the season, 82 for his career. Kai Hall had the previous record at 81 total touchdowns. And now, Cattarelli all-time, Redwood Empire, leading scorer, and now he's also trying to chase down an all-time legend from this area, Najee Harris, who at Antioch who from Antioch currently owns the all-time North Coast section records with 99 total touchdowns. So Cattarelli currently is 17 touchdowns away from breaking, the all-time NCS record, held by Najee. And he hasn't, the rushing yards haven't quite been there so far through 3 games. I think he only has just about over 200, but he needs about 1,500 more, to break Kai Hall's all-time area record. Which again, if St. Vincent, is in line for this other, for another long season, through the playoffs, I think that's definitely, within range. So, yeah, I mean, I think we all expected the touchdown record, Kai's touchdown record to fall. 3 games in, it's already gone. And now it's just, kind of watching his pursuit of trying to track down Najee now. So already a great start to the year against St. Vincent is 3-0, rolled over Lowell last week, 61-0. Tough game coming up this week against Arcata. And then, again, that matchup that you mentioned against Rancho Cotati coming up in early October. But great start to the year for Mason. And again, just possibly just the start of something, really special to watch this year.
Yeah, totally. I mean, he's just a fantastic guy to watch play. And it's not only on the offensive side, dude. Defensively, he's just like a little wrecking machine. He's he's gotten a lot faster, a lot bigger, a lot stronger. I think like unofficially on a laser or something in the offseason, he bumped up to like a 4.640 or something like that, or like 4 something. It's blazing fast. But regardless, he's a special talent for sure. And I think obviously, against the Lowell game, him and star quarterback Gabe Casanovas didn't have to play a lot. I think Casanovas only attempted like 4 passes total, and 3 of them were for touchdowns. So, he didn't have to play a lot against Lowell. And keep in mind, these are his numbers without 4 extra games he could have had after if he, in his sophomore year that he had to sit out for. So, imagine if he had those 4 games too. But yeah, he's a special player to watch, and congrats on the record to him. Deserve it. Pretty funny that the last 2 record holders for this were St. Vincent running backs. But yeah, he definitely deserves it.
Yeah, I mean, looking at his stats from Lowell, he had 1 carry, and that was for a 40-yard touchdown. So, I mean, these blowouts actually probably aren't helping him a whole lot, put up some crazy numbers. But no, I mean, he also had 2 receptions, both went for touchdowns for 122 yards. So it's just, I mean, 3 touches, 3 touchdowns. That's as efficient as you can get. But yeah, I mean, again, just, especially with the schedule to kind of tighten up here, or to get much harder, I'd say, coming down the stretch of non-league play, and then even heading into league play. Yeah, I mean, he's averaging over 10 yards a carry right now. So I mean, if he keeps up that efficiency, he should definitely have a very good chance to break Najee's record, and also to break Kai Hall's Empire rushing record. So definitely a cool storyline to follow this year, and crazy that we've gotten the chance now to cover 2 of these guys coming up through the ranks, and have a chance to make some area history here. So very cool for Mason. Happy to see him hit that touchdown record, and excited to see him pursue the guys ahead of him too for the other 2 spots. So very cool to see. But yeah, moving on. I think we had also mentioned a little bit about this at the top, but yeah, I had a banger last week. Annalee and Petaluma were in a total shootout. Kind of what I expected. A lot of points, came down to the wire. Really, it was one of these games where it was like the team with the ball last is gonna probably be the team that wins this game, and that's kind of how it played out. I mean, 7 lead changes. I think there were 4 ties. I think there were 5 lead changes in the second half. Yeah, it was a points palooza here. Annalee comes out on top, 52-49. I think it's our highest scoring game, I think, in the area this year. But yeah, I mean, again, it was an offensive showcase. Really, just efficient offenses kind of for both teams too. I mean, the one thing that really hurt Petaluma was I think they fumbled the ball 5 times. Um, the big one that cost them was in the fourth quarter. I think they were leading maybe by a score here. Actually, on my notes. Yeah, they were leading. Yeah, so Annalee, who was it? Annalee had just tied the game 42-42 in the first play of the fourth quarter. Petaluma then fumbles it. I think that was their last fumble of the game. Annalee comes down, actually has their drive stall out. They had to settle for a field goal with which Caden Lewis drills from 33 yards out to make it 45-42. Petaluma responds, 5-minute 80-yard drive ends in a touchdown. Petaluma's rushing game was, as dominant as it's been all season. They put up over 400 rushing yards again. They had 3 guys go for over 100 yards. Evan Clark had 4 rushing touchdowns. I think 3 of those were in the first half or something. So, I mean, again, the Petaluma, running attack is alive and well, but definitely, their defense might need to clean a couple things up because 52 points, definitely not what any defensive coordinator wants to see, but also this is an Annalee team that put up 56 the week prior against Napa, so they can obviously fill it up, when they're good. But again, down by 4, Annalee had to execute a last minute drive, and Matthew Medina, their junior quarterback, stepped up to the challenge and was really good. Ran in the last, the game winning touchdown with 26 seconds left. Had a big 4th down conversion, I believe, on that drive, or a big 3rd down conversion on that drive. Yeah, he had a 14-yard rush on 3rd and 9 with less than a minute left that put him in position to score the final touchdown. So, I think he had 3 rushing touchdowns, ran for over 100 yards, passed for almost 300 with a touchdown, no interceptions. So yeah, I mean, again, this Annalee team, obviously, when they're in a shootout, they can keep up with a lot of teams in this area. So, they had that tough opening game against Windsor. Again, I think Windsor is just maybe a tier or 2 better than Annalee, but
Yeah.
Windsor obviously is up in the Adobe, and Annalee is down in the Bay Division, 2 divisions down. So, not a huge surprise there. But yeah, I mean, again, just the Tigers have kind of flexed their muscles offensively, the last 2 weeks and put up 50 points, or in consecutive weeks. So, I mean, again, the schedule hasn't been super tough. I mean, again, I think Petaluma was far and away the best team that that they played so far in non-league, or sorry, outside of Windsor. My bad. But then again, to finish out, Piner this week, which I think should be a win for them, and then they play Kimball, who I think Kimball put up 70 on them last year. So, hopefully that'll be a bit more competitive game. But we're talking about dark horses in the Adobe. It could only be a dark horse in the Bay. I mean, I just kind of looking at the results and stuff right now. I mean, I think obviously, St. Vincent is the team to beat. I'd say Ukiah is probably up there too. Montgomery looks a bit down. I know Santa Rosa has had some decent games to start, but they lost to Petaluma. Lost one of their really talented running backs in Daniel Mills to a leg injury, so they're a bit banged up. Carrillo had that loss to Redwood this past week. They're have a lot of new faces. Montgomery is a bit down, so. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the 2nd, 3rd spot is a little up for grabs here, and I think Annalee might be the team that can rise up and make it a little interesting. I feel like. I mean, again, I still think St. Vincent and Ukiah still might be a tier above, but I think Annalee has shown, I think, in the first couple of weeks that they could be that dark horse team in the Bay Division. So. Yeah, it could be interesting, but again, I mean, it'll take a lot. It'll have to take a huge effort to beat St. Vincent or to beat Ukiah, but I still think Annalee, when they're on, they could light it up with any of the teams in the area. So yeah, just a good couple weeks here for Annalee, and I was definitely impressed by their offense and how they responded just to be in a shootout like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It just always cracks me up whenever I see Petaluma and Annalee on the schedule playing each other, because they're like each other's boogeyman.
Always some
It's
crazy games.
always some crazy. Like, I remember a couple years back, I covered a game at Annalee. It was Petaluma Annalee, and Annalee won that one 50-49, but it came down to the last 2-point conversion attempt, and Annalee Stadium was so loud that the quarterback Henry Ellis at that point couldn't hear the audible, so they ran the same play. It was just funny. But Annalee, they're one of the better passing teams, I think, in our area when they get going. So, it's definitely not out of the question whether or not they could be that dark horse in that Bay League. Because if the early results indicate that's kind of the way it could be looking. I think with Annalee, their biggest improvement has been the line play. Their line has been a lot better than last year. Allowing Medina to have time and allowing them to the rushing game to get going, opening up those holes and everything like that. So that's been a big improvement of that for them. But it's just always you always know what you're going to get when it comes to Petaluma Annalee. And yeah, 7 league changes is absolutely bizarre, but that's just the way it goes with these two. So yeah, congrats to Annalee, and could totally see them continuing the upward trajectory here for the next week at least against Pioneer, and we'll see how they stack up against Kimball this year. Although I do think they're a lot more improved than last year for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, back to that lead changes thing. I mean, it was, Petaluma led after their Petaluma's the details, all that too, were funny. I mean, and it was so hard to kind of keep up at a certain point because the game was just kind of going such a breakneck speed. But yeah, but Petaluma scored in its first play of the game for a 60-yard touchdown that was called back to due to a penalty, and then they score 3 plays later, and then. Annalee scores, Petaluma fumbles, Annalee scores, Petaluma fumbles, Annalee scores, and it's 21-7, and it's like, oh man, Annalee, it just might not be Petaluma's night. And then Petaluma rattles off a 21 straight points to, I think, take like a 35-28 lead. And anyway, and then from there it was just a track meet. So
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a lot of points, a lot of offense. Yeah, I mean, again, 438 rushing yards for Petaluma. Medina passed for 285. He ran for 104. He had 3 touchdowns. Yeah, I mean, almost 500 total offensive yards for Annalee too. So, boatload of yards, boatload of points. Again, those turnovers just ended up kind of killing Petaluma. But I still think Petaluma should be okay. Again, just a couple of those turnovers go differently, and this is a way different game, obviously. But they're playing Maria Carrillo this week, who I think that they should have a pretty good chance to beat, and then it's on the league play. So yeah, I think
Redwood to start.
At Redwood to start, the team that just took care of Carrillo. So yeah, I think Petaluma should be fine. Again, maybe a dark horse over there in the Valley Division. American Canyon, it looks pretty good. Redwood had its struggles to start, kind of had a good bounce back win last week. Casa Grande, we're not quite sure what to make of them. Tamlip's a bit down. Napa and Justin don't look super competitive. So yeah, I mean, that race also seems pretty open too, like we had talked about last week. So yeah, I think Annalee and Petaluma should be just fine kind of as things go on, but very exciting game there. Yeah.
Yeah, but like we always say, Gus, I mean, you said Casa Grande may be down, but when it comes to the Egg Bowl final game of the season, who cares what these teams are at? So, but I wouldn't be surprised, just based on the schedule, Redwood, Justin Sienna, Napa to kick things off for Petaluma in league play. I wouldn't be surprised if they're 3-0 in league going into that American Canyon game. Could set up a nice little matchup there for sure. I think it's at American Canyon, but yeah.
A lot of points maybe in that one too. I mean, both teams know how to light it up. So I think that just might be a theme.
As the one you just went to, but
that might just be a theme of Petaluma season. Is just expect points. So and hammer the over in all these games
on both sides of the ball.
Exactly. Anyway, I think that might be it. Or did you want to touch on Rancho a little bit more?
No. I think that's it. I think I touched on Rancho a good amount. So yeah, another solid slate of this week. If you missed the front end of the podcast here, Gus is going to be at our game of the week this week. Dublin goes to Windsor. I'll be at American Canyon, Benicia or Hayward, and then we'll also have another reporter over at Santa Rosa, Sonoma Valley up in Santa Rosa. So got some good games for coverage for you this week, and obviously we'll have all the good stuff, the roundup, everything on PressDemocrat.com afterwards. But Gus, anything else for the good of the order, or should we send everybody on their way?
No, I think that about does it for me this week. Also, kind of a fun side note, but our picks battle this year again so far is dead even through 3 weeks. I think we're both 11-4. So
no, we're still doing that.
Yeah, still going. So we're picking 5 games a week, our game of the week, and then 4 of our other top games to watch. And so far, it's been dead even through 3 weeks. So definitely some interesting games coming up this week that we might have some differing picks on. But always fun doing that.
Definitely,
So
definitely on the college football scale because it's Oregon State, Oregon week. But you guys are probably gonna whoop our butts, so it doesn't
I
really
don't even
matter.
feel like I need to watch that game. I'll be honest with you.
I'm probably not going to watch it, honestly. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching as always, and we'll catch you guys next week.